一下，把这个
师傅，您的声音很清楚，我的呢？
好，OK。
And can you hear me?
Yes, loud
Okay.
and clear, very.
Loud and clear. Oh, good, good.
Barry, you have some noise.
Oh, okay. I think it might be my fan. Just off it. So if you see me sweating, meaning I'm still alive.
Hey, Charlene, do you want to test your sound too?
Yeah, I'm all right. You can hear me?
Loud
Yes.
and clear.
Loud and clear.
I've been
Okay.
on Zoom the whole day, the whole week, so yeah.
The setting should work. Okay, it is 8 o'clock now. Should we start or should we just wait for another minute or two? Okay, it is 8 o'clock now.
Please note the live streaming at Facebook started. Recording started.
Okay. Thank you.
And stop the background music.
Yeah. I think we can start now. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. It's a very important weekend because from Monday onward, we'll be able to dine in again, but maximum two of us. But anyway, that's not the purpose of us gathering here tonight. It is more about this event that we're trying to bring to you. It's called How to Kiasi Mindfully Amidst COVID-19. All right. And before we go into the topic proper, I have a few key points about just housekeeping stuff. First thing is just to let you know that this session is being recorded. And at the same time, the session is also live streamed via our Facebook page. And so, and also the other thing is, if you like and if possible, we'd love to see your faces. So if you can turn on your video so that we can see you, and for all these wonderful people around us to see you as well. And this session will run for 90 minutes, 1.5 hours. So for the first hour, there will be some panel discussions among the speakers. And then the last 30 minutes will be reserved for Q&A. And there you can put your questions through the chat function. Or if you like, you can raise your hands and we will unmute you and you can ask the questions directly. All right. So that's the housekeeping I need to do before we proceed. I think we are ready now. And first, I have to tell you that this event is brought to you by the Mindfulness Teachers Coalition. And just a little bit about the Mindfulness Teachers Coalition. So MTC, it's actually a bunch of very experienced mindfulness teachers in Singapore as well as Malaysia. They've band together and decided, actually brought by the event last year because COVID started, and they band together, wanted to really share the wisdoms and the benefits of mindfulness to people around this region so that they'll be able to talk about issues that we hold dear at heart for us in Singapore and Malaysia and even other Southeast Asia regions as well. So that's the purpose of them forming. And last year they have put together a very wonderful program of different topics about mindfulness and try to bring mindfulness into the kind of daily life to help people achieve mental good health. So that's the purpose of MTC. And the background of these mindfulness teachers are so wonderful. Some of them come from very varied backgrounds, from different trades, professions. But one common thing amongst them is they are all passionate about mindfulness and they are also all certified, experienced trainers and teachers of mindfulness. And this event tonight is perhaps the very first event we have put together this year, but there will be more in the coming months. So stay tuned. After this event, there will be more around similar topics. So the first topic we try to bring to you is something very close to home. We're talking about the Kiasi attitude that we have. So tonight, the whole topic will be centering around Kiasi and how Kiasi and mindful can blend together to help us to survive this pandemic, this ever-changing time in every aspect of our life. So that's the key thing we'll be focusing on this evening. And before we go into the discussion or talking about the key topics, I would like to just help everyone to settle in to uh, the mood of listening to mindfulness talks and sharing. So, just a very simple mindfulness exercise that a lot of you, if you have tried mindfulness, you might be aware of it, or you have even tried it before. It is something called we call three-step breathing space. It is a unique tool that we use in what we call MBCT mindfulness training, and it is so useful. And it's only going to take about 3 minutes, as simple as that. So I'm going to lead you on this simple and small exercise now. So if I may, can I invite you to find a place that you can sit comfortably? If you like, you can close your eyes or lower your gaze. Try to sit upright, but not too stiff. Just maintain a posture of dignity and alertness. Now, try to sense your body. What is it that you are feeling in your body? It can be your shoulder, your back, or even your legs. What is the sensation now? And what thoughts are there going through your mind? Does it come with any emotions? Has the thoughts changed? Now, let's bring our attention to our breathing. Just breathe normally. Notice the inhale of air into our body and the exhale. Maybe there's a particular point along the breathing channel that you are more aware of. It could be your tummy, the ups and downs of your chest, or the air coming in and out of your nostril. Have your attention fixed there for just a few seconds. Now try to bring this awareness and expand it to the rest of your body, your torso, your neck, try to include even your face. Sense your whole body's presence, the expression on your face. In a few seconds, you will hear the sound of a bell. Try to listen to it until it vanishes completely. And then bring this awareness into the present moment, whatever that you're doing, and of course, while you're listening to the program. Please slowly open your eyes. Thank you. That's a very short and brief approach that usually we use to center ourselves back to the present moment. Whatever we are doing just now, it doesn't matter. Now we are here. Nothing else. We're not going anywhere. So let's start our program, because today we're going to talk about Kiasi. And for Singaporeans, we all know what Kiasi is. It's like, we're so afraid, so scared, don't want to do this, don't even dare to try that. Um, that's happening a lot this in the past 1.5 years. Ever since Covid-19 broke out, ever since the society changed, ever since all these restrictions on our life has been put in place, things are completely different. And then we're coming out of that circuit breaker, phase 2, phase 3, and then suddenly we are back to phase 2 again. So all this ding-donging and all these changes almost every 1-2 months into the regulations, how many people can gather, how many people cannot, and then suddenly here have a community outbreak, there have another domestic case, and that's so scary. And I know a lot of people are even scared of going out, or like you're trying to. When I remember when we were going back into phase 2 time again, for this for whatever reason, people start stocking up on toilet papers again. I don't know why, but that happens. People just react. People do things in a way that sometimes hard to understand. So amidst all these changes, and for us, we are so much affected. And some of us, even worse, have family, have relatives living in other countries. Uh, I have friends living in the US, husband working in Singapore. I have friends Malaysian friends who are in Singapore with relative families back in Malaysia, and they couldn't even step out of Singapore. They're worried sick about their relative. How are they doing? Would they get COVID if they're not careful enough? So all of these things are affecting our life. Even at work, it's like, am I going to keep my job? So all these things making us worried. So tonight, we are so honored to have three very wonderful, very experienced mindfulness teachers to share with us some of the wisdom they have learned, and even some tips and exercises that we can do to help us through all these um, anxious and changing period of our time. So amongst the three, let me share with you this wonderful person whose name is the Venerable Ren Xu, Master Ren Xu. Sometimes we just call him Fa Shi, fashionably call him Fa Shi, that means master. And he has this very unique blend of background, a scholar in Buddhism himself, um, and also a very experienced and well-trained secular mindfulness teachers. So he has been certified to teach so many different mindfulness programs, MBCT, MBSR, even um, MSc. It's not Master of Sciences. Master is Mindfulness Self-Compassion. So amongst a very few teachers in Singapore. But all these are circular mindfulness. So Master Ren Xu will be sharing with us how to make use of the wisdoms to bring to our daily life and sort out the chaos that we are seeing or experiencing right now. And also we have Charlene Teo. Charlene is a very experienced counselor, psychotherapist, uh, and she has this background in service industry for more than a decade. So she's been dealing with people, understanding others' emotions, trying to help all these people for the past few decades. And we also have, amongst the three, Chen Minghui. Minghui, she is a corporate, or she was a corporate warrior. So she knows all these concerns, worries, politics, and backstabbing, how to survive, and all these are probably bringing on a lot of stress and all these anxieties at home, and even make you sleepless all the time. But Ming Hui now is a coach, a trainer, and a mindfulness instructor as well. So let us welcome the three, and then I'm going to just be the moderator. I'm not going to teach you anything. I'm just moderating the whole event. So I'll be asking some questions to some of them and see what kind of gems they would share with us. And I will actually, as I say, I mean, Master Ren Xu has this very unique blend of scholarly Buddhist philosophy with the circular mindfulness practice. So just now I was saying all these changes of rules, regulations every month or even every 2 months maybe are giving us all this chaos in life. How are we going to get used of that? And suddenly we can buy takeaways now. Maybe I don't know. In the future, one day we might not even be able to buy takeaway. Tomorrow, not tomorrow, Monday, we can sit down, maximum two people at one time, and that's the change, sudden change, right? So how are we going to face all these changes and still be okay? So, Master Ren Xu, can you share with us some wisdom in that?
Thank you, Barry, for this wonderful question. As the Buddha said, we live in a very uncertain world, and now we are facing the pandemic COVID-19. I do believe that this is not the first one, and also will not be the last one. In many forms, we will face all the challenges whatsoever. Definitely, we have certain worries, anxiety, and some kind of uncertainty in our mind, in our head. But we also have some way or wisdom from ancient can help us, support us to deal with this current situation. For example, mindfulness, compassion. Maybe we are not able to change the outside world, but from inside, what else we can do? So mindfulness is deeply rooted in Buddhist practices, but now many Westerners, they bring mindfulness into the mainstream to become popular, to become very applicable, practical for our modern society, for our busy life. So just give you a brief introduction that what defines mindfulness. As John Kabat-Zinn gave a very operational definition that mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in a particular way to the present moment experience without judgmentally. So in this way, we are focusing on the present moment, not in our head, not in our past, not expecting what will be like in the future. So we are here now. I'm still okay. I'm still breathing. So in a way, we can shifting our attention from outside the world, then slowly come to inner world and reconnect with our body, with our breath, with our feelings, rather than just stuck in our head. So this is a big shift, and we can find that even sometimes people may never heard before, but now they just give a try, okay? Rather than looking to the outside world, just slowly coming back, okay, I'm sitting here. Yes, you can feel it.
But isn't it very difficult because everywhere we go, I'm now, it's like when I go into MRT, someone sneeze, someone cough, it's like, what happened? What happened? So it's like, yes, I know that we need to be like in the present and not to worry about future or the past, but it's hard for us, right? So for example, you in a closed compartment of MRT, someone sneeze, someone cough. How are we going to deal with all these things?
Yeah, first now if we go out, we need to carry this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the next step, we will practice together how to wear a mask mindfully. So this is the opportunity to practice mindfulness rather than just cross your legs, close your eyes, and stay in a very quiet place. But actually in any place, anywhere, anytime, to anchoring ourselves, and we can find some anchor points like okay, I'm standing near the MRT station or bus station or wherever you stand. You can notice there is the sensation of touching your foot touching the ground or your buttocks touching the chair. Oh, okay, I'm still fine. Yeah, rather than oh, worry this, worry that, then you may probably lost in all your negative thoughts. Of course, negative thoughts will arise, but you can keep some distance between all the negative thoughts and step back, watching all the negative thoughts, just like the water flow away. Okay, so let me show you how to use this opportunity to wearing mask mindfully. Maybe you can take a piece of mask and you can notice how your two hands holding the roof and slowly and close to your nose. And you can notice in which side you hang on your ear first, maybe left side or right side, or maybe both sides. So you can try. And if you wear glass, sometimes if you breathe out, the air will come out. So maybe probably you can press these two sides, then close to your facial skin. Then probably they can block the air coming into your glass, and you can still remain the clarity of your eyes. So, and then you too narrow, then you can extend a little bit, or you can keep some space inside, then you can breathe naturally. So before COVID-19, we just take all the breath in guarantee, so nothing to worry about it. But now maybe we will mask some kind of difficulty arise. Probably you can feel the stuckness of your breath. Maybe you don't need to try too hard. Slowly, a little bit. Okay, breathe in, breathe out. Don't try too hard. If too hard, too fast, then probably you can feel the shortage of the oxygen coming into your nostril. So slowly and coming down, following the natural pace, then you can feel, you can easily to take the sufficient oxygen, whatever available for you. And when you take off the mask, when after coming back home, and you can notice how you take off the mask from which side you take off, left side, right side, and put the mask on a maybe plastic bag or whatever where you put. And this is the opportunity to practice. And also we need to use the sanitizer.
Yes.
Well, whether you go out or wherever you go, maybe toilet or some supermarket, everybody will, use this one to clean the hands. Probably you drop a little bit on your hand, and then noticing the cooliness because it contains some alcoholic element. Then you wash your hand, rubbing your hand. You can feeling the sensation in your palm or in your fingers, maybe left side, right side, front and back. Noticing how you rub your hand in a very smooth way, or maybe you wash your hand with soup, and you can see the bubble of the soup, the water flowing, and the temperature of the water. So every moment we are knowing that what we are doing right now, and all the sensations in your body, all the feelings arising. Maybe you notice some thoughts arising. It's okay. It's very natural. So all the things just happening, emerging, change constantly. So in this way, we can feel all the sensations, all the feelings, but keep a wide angle of the perspective to look at it, just appearing, disappearing, appearing, disappearing.
That's very good advice on that. But I just want to play the devil's advocate. When I press the leave button, I also have very clear sensation that I'm touching that button. That could be virus on that button. Then is there any way when we go out, there are so many things we have to do, I have to touch, but we are kiasi, right? We're scared. How to deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely quite normal because sometimes, maybe you didn't bring this one, but maybe you bring the tissue paper. Someone I see, they use the tissue paper to cover their fingers. Then after press the lift the button, then throw away the tissue paper. Or in any way, I do believe that you can find your way to deal with all this situation. But remember, mindfulness, the original meaning is remembering. Sometimes you need to go out. You also need to remember, bring your key, bring your car, bring, whatever you needed to support you in order to reduce your anxiety, worry, whatever, or other negative emotions. So once you prepare enough, then naturally you will have less anxiety, less worry.
But how about just like today, I know Monday is going to change, the rules are different. But then that regulation, I don't know, is going to last for maybe just 2 weeks or maybe 3 months. We don't know. So how are we going to deal with this? This seems to be the new normal. Things keep changing. How are we going to deal with that?
Yes, once we get familiar with all the situation, doesn't matter what kind of forms, what kind of regulations. So slowly we all need to fit in or live with the situation. So it's like start from now. We are learning the art of living with uncertainty, living with the pandemic as per all become very normal, like any other types of virus. So, or flu, people now flu is become very normal, but in the past it's also very dangerous. But in right now, the COVID still in danger. But I do believe maybe in the future, when more vacancy came out, the people take the vaccinated. So, and we have the immune system, and we can become stronger, and still can live with all these different stuff.
So we have to learn to live with all these changes now. But I just curious because for
And
me, yeah, please go ahead.
yeah, in a way, we can find there are some challenges, but slowly, as a human being, we are very smart, we are very intelligent. We can find the way how to live with all the situation.
Right. We'll definitely adapt to it, and so that we need to be mindful of the things that we are doing, and that's a very useful way of getting around the daily changes, daily encounterings. But
Yeah,
I have this concern because just now when I opened the session, I was saying there are some of us who are separated from our families and relatives. For example, for in my case, I was separated with my family for 1 year and couldn't come back to Singapore for a year to see my wife and my kids. So for that year, being aware, I know the feeling is not easy. Every time I hear news in Singapore with outbreaks here and there, I started to concern. I couldn't sleep. I mean, the same thing happens now. I think a lot of Singaporeans or Malaysians working in Singapore or even foreigners, they are separated from their families and relatives. All this emotional trauma, ups and downs, might keep them awake at night or even affect the daily life. So I want to ask Charlene, because I know you've been dealing with people who are experiencing a lot of emotional trauma all the time. Is there any tips or any advice you would like to give them and share with us?
Hi, hello, hi. Thank you, Barry. Um, yes. Well, we look at this whole situation here. It is something that we want to first and foremost recognize where we are at, right? Uh, the situation is getting more escalated, as you have highlighted earlier. And as we go through each day itself, it's important for us to come to terms with it ourselves first before we can try to see, okay, how are we going to resolve it, or what are we going to do in trying to resolve it? Because it is how it is. And when we look at things, I would like to perhaps just invite our participants here, right? As I would like perhaps get this session a little bit more interactive and not just me talking. I would like to invite you to perhaps just think of what's exactly on your mind right now, because we can talk a lot about how this thing is happening, but what about each of us to come and think for ourselves, right? What is on your mind right now with regards to the COVID situation? Do you have a fear inside you? Do you have something that's bugging, that's pulling you tight? Do you have something that's worrisome? Wondering what is on your mind. Have you ever spent some time to think about the different stages that we went through from phase one to phase two to phase three, then going back to heightened alert, and then you can come out, you can't come out, you got to stay at home, and then and and as you look out, what's inside you, right? That perhaps sometimes for some of us, it is so hard to say it all out because maybe you are the head of the family. You have to look after everyone else. And so I'm going to tell my children that, hey, mommy's scared, or daddy's scared. No, I'm going to put up a brave front and okay, it's all right. We just put on your mask. Everything will be all right. But we worry. We worry if everything's going to be all right. And at the end of the day here really is to think, okay, the reality is this. Yes, it is really tough. Can we come up front and voice it out and say, I'm really scared, and perhaps I may even need to sit my children down and let's talk about it. We went through SARS, which was even worse, I would say, right? It's just that SARS didn't stay as long as where COVID is. COVID is like an uninvited guest who came to your house and then decided, oh, this is a nice place. I'm going to stay here. Or at first, I'm going to stay for 1 year. Oh, no, I think I'm going to stay for 5 to 7 years. Quite a nice place to, right? And if we're going to have COVID here for 5 to 7 years, are we going to have the fear for 5 to 7 years? Are we going to live with that anxiety of pressing the lift button, touching the market trolley? No, I better bring my own trolley. Shall I hold the bus or the MRT strap? Oh no, I better stand without holding anything, but I may fall down. And then everything that I'm going to touch, I'm afraid. I'm going to climb up the stairs, but should I hold the railing, because everything on the whole stretch of the railing could have germs on it, could have, maybe the person before me had the COVID, and that person doesn't even know. So how will I know what's happening inside me, right? So here, what we're looking at here, right, that can we come to terms with the anxiety that's happening inside me, that I have a tightness in my chest, that I'm really scared, and I'm scared of dying. It's literally, when we talk of our Singapore terms of Kiasi, we have never ever spoken about it so literally, that Kiasi as in really scared of dying. That with this last change, in this last few weeks, I would say, our life has been kind of thrown apart, because at first we thought that we were very safe. We thought that things were going, hey, yeah, they are going pretty good, our numbers are down. And then we went to phase 2. Everyone was pretty much happy. And then the numbers went up. Can you see the graph
Yes.
here, right?
Yes.
This graph here is from last year, February, the statistics from last year, February, until this year. And up to April, it was actually going down.
Yeah.
Right? And then suddenly, in May and June, it spiked up, where people started feeling afraid now, because clusters started coming up, and we thought we were safe, and oh no, we're not. We're not safe. It's kind of really scary. And we're still trying to put on a brave front for our family, which is true. But how about, can we put on that reality check with our children or with our family members, that going through this is one of the challenges of life, right? Ours is this pandemic. The generation before us, our parents, was the war, World War II. They were just as scared. They grew up as children. I know my parents talk about going through World War II, having to hide in the house because my mom was afraid that the Japanese would catch them, and then they had the sweet potatoes for every meal, and they were so afraid of their life. So in all the generations, there were challenges, and it's about how we actually pull ourselves through this difficult period itself. And if you look at this, right, to going psychology perspective here, but some of you may have heard of this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Um, because of each crisis that we go into, in peacetime, we were all climbing up, we were going up into love and belonging, into self-esteem, building self-esteem. We were heading for trying to get A star for our school results. We want to be the number one top student. You want to be the number one, the employee of the month. And we were going up, up, up. But when COVID struck, you notice that we actually went down into the basic rungs of trying to get shelters, get sleep. Our physiological needs are affected because we don't know where can we live that would be safe. Our safety needs were affected because we don't even know whether we'll be alive the next day. And because of this, you notice that people became more aggressive. Where animal instincts come out, we are like an animal trying to protect our turf. And you notice that people they quarrel in public because, why didn't you put on your mask? How can you put on your mask? And people will shout and scold. And they'll even scold strangers, why didn't you put on your mask? How dare you not put on your mask? Right? Because we've gone down to the lower levels of trying to find what's happening inside. So this really affected each and every one of us, that we forget a lot of things. We forget even to be courteous to people because we're so scared of, will tomorrow be still around? Will my family face COVID? Will my friends, the one whom I was talking to, I can't have a meal, but the last time I spoke to them, they were okay. And then we were told to stay in, and the next time I didn't get to see them again. That last meal that we could meet together in phase 2, that was the last meal that we had. It's scary. It's really scary. And I think when we talk of mindfulness here, it's, can we come up front and just be open, talk about it so that we can tell everyone that we're not alone, and that let's share this burden together. Let's face this together. United, we can prep each other up. Each time that somebody's going down in their mood, I can pull them up. And every one of us have a down day, and then can I pull my friend up? If we stay together and be upfront and tell them, hey, today I'm really scared. Today I saw the numbers, wow, scary. And then we say, okay, let's think positive. And we work through this by really letting the anxiety come in and be upfront and talk to another person or someone else that you can talk to, open it up. You're not alone in this. And we can't get through COVID by hiding ourselves in our bubble, right?
I guess that would need some sort of courage for us to be able to face that. Is there any way that we can gather our courage?
Yeah, this it's really in mindfulness, right? When we talk of this, how to gather this courage here, because each time that we're fighting it alone, you're fighting a losing battle, right? Honestly, because we'll break down into depression, we'll be scared, and with the more scared we are, we'll probably scold our whole family, and you'll be going home. Why didn't you, told you don't go out? Why did you go out? And you may even have family members scolding their parents because they're so afraid that their parents will go out and catch COVID. So you better stay in, mom. You better stay. Why did you stay? Why? And we end up losing our family because we end up being fierce and rude and aggressive to our own family members. So let's all just sit down and have a good chat talk about your fears, talk about what's inside, and then addressing it in a mindful way that can we talk about it, and at the same time noticing that I am tired. Let the family know too that because of this COVID, we're all stuck in the home. When on regular days, mommy, daddy go off to and children go to school, and so there's a break time. But everybody's at home. The parents have to work 24/7 to look after the family. They worry for 24/7. They are tired too of worrying about everyone. The children are also worried about their parents getting sick. And this worry has gone on for 1.5 years. This worry is usually when we talk of caregivers, we think of those who are taking care of some elderly, taking care of someone who is uh, uh, in with health situations. But now we're talking of caregiver in just a normal family, but because you're stuck at home there, you're caring and caring and caring. You're the caregiver. You work from home, so you got no break, and you have to keep caring and worrying, and you face that.
That's very tiring, right?
It is, and nobody thought of that. Ordinary people can be considered as caregivers, but because when you're stuck 24/7 in the home, you are literally a caregiver, and you literally got no break. You 24/7. You have to take care of their every single need, and they could have 1,001 needs, and so everyone's fighting out with each other. I would like to share this particular practice with you, right? Of how we're going to use mindfulness to address this COVID here with a final practice, right? With all our friends here today. What we call here is soften, soothe, and allow. It's about recognizing the anxiety or the fear inside us, and then finding a particular spot in your body that actually feels that anxiety the most, the part that's most tense, whether it's your chest that's tightened or your stomach that is all tense. So can I invite everyone for just about a 3 minutes short practice itself, all right? Okay, and just sitting upright in your chair, or if you're sitting on the floor on the cushion, right? And inviting yourself to come to this space here. You can have your eyes open in a low gaze, or you can have your eyes closed, whichever that you feels most comfortable. Inviting yourself to this space, recognizing what's going on inside your mind. Let's take a moment to invite all the thoughts that's up in your mind, the fear, the anxiety, or the excitement of joining today's session, or the fatigue of having a full day of work. Whatever it may be, just noticing. Now, I'd like to invite you to just take a moment to ponder, how has this 1.5 years been for you since COVID came in? What are the different emotions that you experienced as you went through this journey? and inviting yourself, think of what's happening to you right here, right now. When I ask you to think about COVID-19, were there moments that you had some fear about getting it? Were there moments where you had some fear about losing a job? Were there moments that you felt afraid that your children might get infected, or your mom, or your dad? Were there moments where you are not too sure of what the future holds? Whatever the anxiety that you may feel, may I invite you to just notice in which part of the body feels the strongest this emotion. Just take a moment to just noticing what's happening with that part of the body. You may wish to even hold your hand and just touch that part of the body, be it on the chest, that you felt the chest very tight, or on the belly, in the abdomen area. Maybe there were butterflies in the tummy, or they feel some sense of extreme coldness, or there's a spinning headache. Just hold on to that part of the body and just feel what's happening there. And I'd like you to take this moment as you hold on to that part of the body. Let's just go to the breath, just breathe and imagine that the breath can go right to that part that felt most uncomfortable. Right? And imagine that the next breath is going to bring oxygen and bring the new breath to that part, whether it be your abdomen or your chest, your head. And just breathe into that part, softening that part, soothing it, and allowing it to be here. At this point, we're not trying to push away this pain or this anxiety, but we're just softening it, soothing, and allowing. Soften, soothe, and allow. Breathing into it, imagine as if like your breath can bring in new recharge into that particular part of the body. And recharging it as how you recharge your handphone. And as we're doing this, also notice that sometimes our minds do wander. And that's okay. When your mind wanders off, just take a moment, noticing where it's gone to, and just like a little puppy, go up to where the mind has wandered to and say, "Hey, let's get back." And gently, very gently invite the mind back to where we were before, breathing into the uncomfortable area, breathing into the space that was tense, and just soften, soothe, and allow. Soften, soothe, and allow. Just allowing this space on your own letting it come in to this space. As we move in to this area of uncertainty, this area of anxiety, and just soften, soothe, and allow. And perhaps we could now take a moment with this breath to bring us to this present moment. And every time that you feel a sense of anxiety, just knowing that you can come back to the breath and allowing the breath to come in, to soften, soothe, and allow. Because the breath is always with us. Take this like an anchor to anchor them into this perspective as it brings us to the next moment of the day.
Thank you, Charlene. That's a wonderful and beautiful exercise. I mean, I feel much better now. Thank you for
Thank you.
this. Yeah, this soften, soothe, and allow. I mean, a lot of time, I guess, we just don't allow us to feel vulnerable, right? So I'm just going to throw the next question to our wonderful lady, Ming Hui, because I just remember, as Charlene just reminded me, hey, sometimes we're worried about our job. All these changes all the time, right? We don't even know if we have a job next month. Uh, Companies go bust sometimes, and sometimes just simply have to laid off people, and this constant fear in the mind. I know I can practice smooth, soothe, and allow, but this is something that's so real. It's a threat that I cannot afford to really get into, right? So is there any way in mindfulness practice or that we can apply to our kind of daily struggle with all these incomes, money, job, career, politics, or worst case would be layoff and retrenchments, all that? Is there any wisdom you want to share with us?
So thanks, Barry, for that question, right? I think, everything that Venerable Renshi shared and, that Charlene shared, I think probably reminds us that a lot of things are out of our control. And if COVID has any common message amongst all of us, it is really that the only thing we could probably have some level of control of is how we want to relate to these externalities, right? Mindfulness is not a panacea or a magic wand or magic pill of any kind, right? And in fact, sometimes it's very easy for people to say, okay, I'm going to pick up mindfulness and then I'm going to be calm all the time the next day, okay? And it's not necessarily realistic, as I think many of us here who may have had some practice, okay, would attest to. I don't know about you, Barry, your practice, but I can certainly say that in my initial years of practice, I was wondering why it was that I wasn't feeling calm all the time,
Hmm.
right? There is always this sense of self-criticism, being really harsh with myself, like I should know how to do this. I should be able to solve that, right? The thing is, how many things are truly in our control? If we, do an activity right now, for instance, okay, and I say, I'm going to count to 10. And in this 10 counts, let us all totally blank our minds. Let's not even think of a pink elephant. Okay, so maybe everyone can try this with me. And I'm just going to count to 10. Okay, silently, starting now. So that was 10 counts. I'd like to know if anybody succeeded in totally clearing your mind and not thinking about anything. Again, you can put it in the chat or you can unmute, right? Or you can just let us know.
I
Was
have
there
a
any
zoo. I have a zoo of elephants, pink
a zoo
elephants.
yeah. You were thinking about exactly the thing that we say, let's not think about, isn't it? And that's really how the human mind works, right? If you paid attention to Charlene's instructions just now, if we have a mind, it will wander, right? Yeah, right. Siu Ping, thank you. Can't. Need to hear words from you. And that's what the mind does. It's always seeking, it's always wanting to make meaning. Okay, and so there is a misconception that the minute we sit down and we practice mindfulness, that some of us who are very new to it may think that okay, we just sit there and then we just zen out, right? Or we tune out. But actually, mindfulness is about tuning in. It's not about tuning out, right? We need to get our insights okay in the sense that we acknowledge and we accept that we are going through a difficult time because we're human. Human beings will go through our ups, we'll go through our downs. We will have our difficult feelings. I mean, Barry, I could totally relate to you when you said not being able to see family members because of this situation. I have the same challenge as well, right? I have family members just across the street, so near yet so far, right? And I'm sure a lot of our audience, our participants here, have got people that they would love to dine with instead of Zoom dining with, okay? Um, and recognizing that actually this is common humanity, right? And recognizing that in difficult times that we deserve compassion, we can befriend our own selves, right? We can actually tune into our emotional needs, right? Just as Charlene has done, which is to recognize what is it that I'm going through right now, right? And also perhaps to cultivate a different climate within ourselves. Because you and I are not going to change the climate out there, right? But what about the climate inside us? So whatever the uncertainty, be it from the work front, be it from the health front, right? Um, and there are days when, you talked about work, and I think there are a couple of questions coming in about,
Yes.
really hectic work days.
Yeah.
These are really, really real issues and challenges. Now, the question is, can we take micro pauses? Yeah. So if you realize for today's webinar, we have used a slightly different format where we have micro practices, right? So Renshi Shifu shared with us some micro practice. Charlene shared micro practice. I'm going to share a micro practice later. The
Good.
question is, how do we want to incorporate these micro practices into our own lives, right? Are we willing to maybe tweak a little bit of our old habits? Say, for example, before you turn on your laptop, are you willing to give yourself 3 minutes? Right? Barry also gave us a 3-step breathing space right at the beginning. That 3 steps is probably 3 minutes. Do we give ourselves the permission to take 3 minutes before we step into a meeting, right? Before we do have a difficult conversation, or we know we are going to meet a client and we don't have good news to bring to them. We cannot necessarily change the climate that our client or our superior or our colleagues are having, but can we prepare ourselves, cultivate a different climate within ourselves? And importantly, be willing to give up some harshness that we habitually give to ourselves. I blew that again. Oh, I couldn't do that. I didn't. Well, we are human, and these are challenging times, isn't it? Can we perhaps just give ourselves that little bit of space that we deserve, all of us, right? Um, and extend a little goodwill to ourselves. What do you think, Barry?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Do you have any a quick exercise just like those micro moments that we can use, maybe 3 minutes or so?
I would love to share one. And,
Yeah.
this is a befriending. Some call it loving kindness or compassion meditation. And so I'm going to ring the bell as well. And so inviting everyone to take a comfortable sitting posture. Once again, inviting you to sit upright but not tight, allowing the shoulders to relax. If you like, you can put a palm over your heart. Otherwise, having them on your laps are fine. And if you do have a palm over your heart, perhaps tuning in to this physical movement of a heartbeat, noticing the warmth, not only in the physical sense, but the warmth that you are bringing to yourself with just the small action of caring, of allowing, perhaps even bringing a sense of gratitude to your heart for beating, for working round the clock, even when you're resting. Just being really appreciative of you as you. And if you like, perhaps allowing the words that I'm about to recite to slowly percolate and sink in, or even reciting after me quietly in your mind, if that's what's comfortable. Recognizing that as a human being, we all have our difficult moments. Here's wishing myself, may I be well in the midst of all this. May I be well and safe and healthy. May I have ease of mind in the midst of all this. May I look at myself with eyes of kindness in the midst of all this. And bringing to mind perhaps that there's this common humanity and this common situation that we are all in. And bringing to mind our loved ones, whether those whom we are fortunate enough to be in the house with, or those who are far away and whom we are only virtually meeting. Bringing these loved ones to mind, let us extend our well wishes to them, that may they be safe and well in the midst of this. May they have ease of mind in the midst of this. May they look at themselves with eyes of kindness, and may they live in peace in the midst of this.
Thank you, Ming Hui, for sharing with us this very beautiful kind of full of gratitude and loving kindness practice. Yeah. Thank you. I think
So,
when all our panelists have shared some wisdoms with us, and I saw some questions coming in as well. Just want to open the floor to any of you, three of you, to help answer some of the questions coming in. I think the very first question was about how to be mindful when there are many last minute things by higher authorities or maybe by your boss at work and there are tight deadline to meet and you need to rush all these things at the same time. So how are we going to be mindful in such a situation? I know right now we have to finish things on hand. There are work pressure because we might lose our job if we don't do it. So how to deal with that? Or Minghui, maybe because you deal a lot with corporate mindfulness as well. I'm sure you have faced similar questions before.
yeah, so in this world where multitasking is rated as something important, maybe we can also remind everyone that multitasking is overrated. In fact, it's not even 100% true. There's really no such thing as multitasking. Our mind at any one point can only hold one thing at a time. So when we think we are multitasking, we are really just toggling between tasks in a really, really rapid manner, right? So imagine, you're working on your own, on your phone or your laptop or whatever. All we are doing is just switching screen very, very rapidly, and that's really, really taxing on our brains. Okay, so if we know that we are having tight deadline, there is actually no shortcut but to focus on what it is that we really need to do first. And at that moment, be fully present. Because imagine if you're working on something and half the mind is somewhere else.
Hmm.
This current task that we need to focus and rush out is only getting 50% of our time and energy and focus. So imagine what level of productivity that actually brings, right? And this is really easier said than done. All right. I won't call it easy, but we all have to start training somewhere. And the good news is our minds, okay, doesn't matter how old we are, and this is scientifically proven, our mind is still trainable. And we train it by bringing our attention back to the present again and again. And we can use our breath to do so, right? The moment we realize that, oops, our mind has gone shopping, our mind has gone walking down a memory lane, the minute we realize it is the opportunity for us to come back and be present. Yeah.
Is there any quick exercise that we can do just to bring the mind back and be present once we realize we are worrying about boss yelling at me again or not completing this by 6 o'clock? Is there any quick tips we can use, Charlene?
Yeah, I don't want to hog the mic. I'm going to let, Charlene speak.
I think we can actually use any of the practices that we covered today, depending on how we are reacting to the situation itself. So I do see that when we're talking about a lot of these last minute tasks, in fact, I also add in that because of COVID, people are working super hard with this work from home, because when you were working from the office you can go home at 5 o'clock, but I've got the known of people who are working until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. because they're working from home, and they feel that compelling need that, okay, my boss needs this to be done, so they work right through the night, such that there's no end to work time. It doesn't end at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, it ends 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And so it's really being able to give yourself a break and recognize, okay, if I can't finish this today, I'll just have to tell my boss that I've done the best that I can. And I've done so much already, the next I'll do it tomorrow. Instead of pushing ourselves on and on, because then that's where our anxiety level goes up and we'll probably end up screaming at all our family members for disturbing us, right? And so to recognize that this work from home must have some structure, some guidelines, and we are the ones to enforce that structure or guidelines. If we leave it with an open boundary, we are the one who is actually making it more stressful for ourselves. If we work until 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., right? With no end of work day. And then the next morning you start work again at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock because you happen to wake up at 7 o'clock. You took up your phone and oops, there my boss sent me a thing I got to reply at 7 o'clock. It's not saying, oh, what time do I reach my office at 9 o'clock? No, 7 o'clock I got to open up my laptop and I got to type that email. It's really about self-compassion to yourself. I think that's most important, self-compassion. Give yourself a chance to recharge. We recharge our handphones. Do we recharge ourselves, our body?
But wouldn't like self-compassion is like pampering ourselves a bit? But, wouldn't that be a little bit narcissistic?
Well, yeah, it sounds like it, right? But in mindfulness, self-compassion itself, right, we talk about just being able to take care of ourselves, because if we don't take care of ourselves, how then are we able to take care of the rest of the family? By the time that we break down and we crumble, who's going to take care of the family that we thought we were taking care of, thought I'm working so hard so that I can feed my family, but if I'm breaking down and screaming at all of them, I don't think they want that. They don't want a screaming mommy or screaming daddy. They want back the regular mommy daddy. Can you go back to work in the workplace so they won't scream at us? And so it's really recognizing that we are human beings. I think Ming Hui talk about common humanity. Recognize that, hey, we're not robots, We don't, just because boss says work from home, doesn't mean that we work until we give every ounce of blood and into that job itself.
Once I heard someone share with me this tip about how to kind of deal with situation like that, sudden demand from a boss or a nasty email from your client or something just failed and gone all wrong. So that person says she will just go to the toilet, not to escape, splash water, refresh herself first, and she was sharing with me that, but it sounds very much like a mindful moment to me. She's just like, look in the mirror and look at herself and just look at herself breathing for 1 minute, not doing anything. I thought that was amazing. That was a good trick, right? But so like Master Ren Xue has shared with us so many different ways, like wearing mask, we can be mindful, putting on hand sanitizer, can be mindful. But how about dealing with like sudden onslaught of nasty email from the boss or client, or someone just scolded you at home, or even maybe your well, won't be wife or master relationship, but for us, maybe our wife or our husband just say a few nasty words and we feel so frustrated. Is there any things like washing your hands or splashing water on your face, not on the other person's face, right? Would that help?
Yeah,
I
probably. Yeah, I do believe sometimes it works, but sometimes maybe not working very well. But in mindfulness practice, there is an acronym called STOP. So STOP. So you just remember the 4 steps, then maybe like charge yourself for a while. So it doesn't take quite a long time to do the small practice. So S means you can just the STOP, stop. Okay, now something I recognize something happened. Okay, just stop, not necessarily or immediately react out. Oh, I need to say something. I need to fight back. Then, okay, take a pause. Then T, okay, let me take a few deep breaths in, breath out. Okay, can feel maybe how does it affect your breath? Maybe become short or become very shallow, whatever. Then O means observing. Okay, what's happening inside my body? Okay, is there any tightness, tension around the shoulder, around the chest, or how fast your heartbeat, you know, or maybe the blood circulation, the body temperature arising, all the phenomena arise under certain circumstance or situation or conflict, whatever. Then P, just slowly proceed with all the questions. Okay, I have a clear mind. What next I can do? What is the next step I can make into my plan? Slowly, then you're not necessary to fighting or against with outside world, but slowly you can make yourself into a balanced manner. Then you can slowly work on your pace. I think this is very helpful. Even when we encounter the traffic light or the daily walks, maybe between 1 or 2 hours, you can take 1 or 2 minutes, stop. Okay, just coming back to myself. When during the lunchtime, okay, take 1 or 2 minutes, stop, or afternoon. So eventually, then you can balance all your energy in whole day working environment.
Thank you, Master. Minghui, you were trying to share something just now, right?
Oh, I think, Shifu has said it really beautifully. But I might also maybe just add on with, sometimes what happens when we get, like what you said, nasty emails, or we hear something that triggers us. It's about that trigger, right? And what it triggers is this automatic self-protection reaction that our brain, there's a part of our brain, has this wiring, right? And it's not wrong, it's not bad, because we have to have a self-protection mechanism of some sort. The problem is when we are triggered without realizing that the reaction that might come out doesn't commensurate with the issue itself, right? So we're not chased by a saber-toothed tiger, and yet we have this big reaction. Again, sometimes when it happens, after it happens, it becomes something that we might regret. And that's really, something that we would want to work on, isn't it? And I think what Shifu has described with the stop is beautiful, because what we're trying to do is give ourselves that space, right? To allow our brain to not react and bring the functioning of the brain back to the rational thinking portion, which actually lies in the front of our brain, right? The prefrontal cortex. Some of us may be familiar. For those who are not, no problem, right? We have this thinking brain, and then we have this protection brain. Think of it that way. So what we really just need to do is to give ourselves that space, and we can do it by taking a few breaths, or Barry, you describe somebody who knew that for her, it works if she walks away and splashes water. That's okay too, because at the end of the day, it is what works for you to allow yourself that space. Or another easy one is to drink water, right? Okay, I've got a virtual screen on, so you can't see my cup. I've got to move it to a certain. But drinking water sometimes allows us to buy time, so that we don't regret the next thing that comes out from our mouth, right? And taking a longer sip is about that 6 or 7 seconds, which is which is good enough for our brain to disengage and say, oh, threat is over, and come back to the front, to the thinking brain. Yeah. So take your pick. Lots of tips.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I mean, drinking water is a very convenient way as well. It's good for the body.
It is.
Yeah. And let's see,
And
is any...
sometimes, can I just add on a little bit, right?
Yes.
Sometimes when we're facing this, we may want to look at it from a different perspective, that is it really going to be all that bad, right? Of what we perceived to be a horrible situation, our perception itself is still up in our thoughts, and the thoughts are not really facts, no? So sometimes it's like, it's raining outside. So then I've got to decide, do I walk out into the rain and get drenched? Or do I wait until the rain stops? But if the rain goes on the whole day, am I going to just stand in the shelter the whole day and wait? Or do I have other resources? Do I have an umbrella? Do I have a raincoat? And if I have those, can I use them? If I don't have those, my option is either get wet, but is getting wet going to be all that bad? Or maybe there's some joy getting wet, or there's something to be learned from getting wet. So the people who love to walk in the rain, it may be something to think of. Or do I just stay in the shelter? And what if it rains for the next 3 days? Am I going to stay in the shelter for the next 3 days, So really just to observe, I should say, stop, think, observe. Are all the different options really as escalated as we think they are? And if they are, how can we look at them from a different perspective? As are they really a threat, or perhaps there's something to learn from there, that we might want to walk right into the rain and
Thank
see.
you for sharing that. That's a very good analogy. The rain, walking into the rain. You have a lot of choices. It's all as though it's like we have all this built-in auto reaction in our brain, our mind. When we see a stimulus coming up, we just bang and just do whatever we think we should be doing, and not really even like Sulu was saying, stop, reassess the whole situation, right? Observe it, process it, and proceed with what you should be doing. We're not doing that. We would just jump to the conclusion and react straight away. Like Minghui was saying, yeah, we need to have this stop gap in between. And these are what exactly all these mindfulness practices that we have been sharing are able to help us to go through our days, to deal with our emotions and all that. And that's very useful. And today we have heard a lot of different tricks, tips, approaches, and some as simple as washing your hands, putting on your mask as well. That's so easy. So mindfulness doesn't mean that you have to sit cross-legged, listen to some Zen music and burn an incense. No, nothing like that. It's every day, every moment, that to help us be mindful of what we are doing and how we are doing it. Sometimes we don't even know what we are doing. Sometimes we lost track of how we managed to get from one point to the other. I'm home. What happened in between? Don't know. So thank you for all this sharing of the wisdom from all of you. Let's see what other questions our audience want to ask. Okay, apart from the two, one is uh, the a lot of work to deal with, and the other one is how to be mindful all the time in the daily situation, right? But any other questions? No?
So, yeah, I think the one that talk about how can we apply the tips, I think we covered that in that sense that, to take away people's perception that mindfulness, you need to have at least 30 minutes quiet space, sit down and meditate. But today we've shared that a lot of the practices are just 2 or 3 minutes. You can shorten it. It's basically just taking a moment from that war zone itself, step back, go to the toilet or go to the side, wash your face, stare at the mirror, take a breath or whatever, and that's mindfulness. And stop, think of what's happening, and that's mindfulness. And anytime it can be as short as 1 minute or 2 minutes. So we don't need to have that 30 minutes quiet, sit down, cross-legged thing itself to kickstart the mindfulness journey.
Even drinking water can be
Yes.
so mindful, right? So
Yeah.
so when next time we see that leave button we are so afraid to touch, we can sanitize our hand, be mindful.
Yeah, do you decide, do you want to touch or you don't want to touch? And what happens if you touch?
Yeah. When we receive that nasty email from boss, hey, I need this by 6 o'clock, then which is 5:30 already.
Hmm.
then we might learn from Ming Hui and drink a glass of water before the next word comes out from our mouth that we will regret. And then we call back, say, hey, we can do as much as we could, like your
Exactly.
advice. Yeah, and
Exactly.
show
Exactly.
ourselves some compassion.
Yes, exactly. To be able to stand up and speak up and let people know what you're going through. I also teach little children, if they don't understand something, are you able to go up to the teacher and tell the teacher that you don't understand that portion? Can you get enough guts or courage to come up and talk to the teacher, share the teacher your struggles? And they do that, you know. I worked with the kids who are like primary two, primary three, said so, and then we practice how you could tell the teacher, how you could tell the teacher tactfully, and express your challenges. And a lot of times we dare not speak up, and we think that the our supervisors or our reporting officers would not understand, but we've not even tried, we already closed the door.
Thank you, Charlene. Ming Hui, anything you want to add?
So, I think while we said that the pauses or the exercises are not difficult, at the same time, I think I do want to acknowledge that simple is not always easy, especially in the heat of the moment, in our busyness. So I think it's really important to cut ourselves some slack and remember to practice some self-kindness, self-compassion. We are human. It is okay for us to make mistake. And the beauty of a mindfulness practice is as long as we have the next breath is a new beginning, right? So when we say the next time you find your mind wandering, come back to this breath and this breath and this breath. And so even though the exercises that we shared today are short, okay, anywhere between 1 to 5 minutes, if we want our mind to be accustomed to this way of giving ourselves time and pauses, if you can, it would be really lovely to set aside some time to practice for longer, because we cannot have a mind that is fit by just listening to a 1.5 hour talk, just like we don't get fit by listening to a talk about fitness. We got to go to the gym, we got to run, we got to do weights. It's the same with our mind. We can train it only if we are willing to train it. And yeah, I guess that's my
Right.
parting
Thank you.
words.
Thank you. And Master Ren Xu, any last word before we bring the session to a close?
Yeah, in one side, we need to remember what we are going to do. But in another side, how we are going to do. Doesn't matter, bigger matter or small matter. So the quality of doing is also very important. Sometimes we just forgot, just focus on the target. But rather than focus on the target or the result, we can, to manage the process, each step, what kind of quality we bring into, pay attention, non-judgmentally, maybe more open-minded, more acceptance, more allowing. Then slowly you can find, things has been done. Rather than I need to take a lot of effort, try to achieve certain goal. Just each mini step, I do believe that not so heavy. But if you try to remove a heavy mountain, you just each time pick one piece of rock, then slowly, you can transit. Finally you find, the whole mountain just removed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Master. Thank you, three of you. That's been wonderful having you three tonight, sharing with us all these wisdoms and tricks that we can use to bring ourselves through all these ups and downs and amidst this pandemic. And we do have an evaluation form, or actually feedback form for everyone to take just a tiny bit of your time to fill out so that we'll be able to bring you more interesting and relevant and useful webinars next time. And there are a lot more other events in the pipeline we are planning. So again, thank you for your taking the time. So feedback form is in the QR code on the screen. You can scan it using your mobile phone, or I think Reha has posted the link in the chat as well. So you can kindly go there and just give us some feedback on that. And in the future, we'll also be bringing you some Chinese session too. So apart from giving you English mindfulness, we also bring you Chinese mindfulness. The same thing is same bunch of compassionate teachers here, and that's about it for tonight. So it's 9:34. So please stay safe, stay healthy, and stay happy, and be kiasily and mindfully doing that. So that's kiasi. Next time we may be bringing you kiasu. Okay, thank you. Bye for now.
Bye for now. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you so much for your presence. All the best. Stay well.
Thank you. Continue to practice and let the mindfulness become part of your life.